Hello again and welcome to Undercover. I'm your host, Kevin Bousquet. We are picking up in a very special series that we're going to be starting with respect to expert witnesses, people who work in our court system for the private sector, giving expert evidence, expert witness type of evidence. Now, today's segment we're going to be talking about polygraph. In layman's terms, that's sometimes called lie detector testing, that kind of thing. Now, I've brought in a very special guest. His name is Frank Wozniak. Now, Frank is a retired detective from the Metropolitan Toronto Police. He comes here today with 30 years of police experience. In the past 19 years of his police career, he spent doing polygraph for the Metropolitan Toronto Police. So he is an expert in his field. He is a certified polygraph examiner. He is now working in private practice, and you can see all about his business and the people that work with him in the area of polygraph and in the area of lie detecting, so to speak, at torontopolygraph.com. Frank, welcome to the show. Now, can you just give us a bit about your background, how you got into this? Let us know just a little bit about how you got into it, what your qualifications are to work this kind of equipment.
Sure, Kevin. Like you said, I spent over 30 years in the Toronto Police. In 1987, I was selected to go to the Canadian Police College in Ottawa to study the art and the science of administering polygraph examinations, and I've done that since 1987. And in my retirement years, I've taken this science, this occupation to post-retirement.
Okay, and what's your background? Like, what kind of would you have to take special courses in this? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, it was the initial course in Ottawa was 3 months, followed by an internship that I conducted out in British Columbia with the RCM Police, and followed by a period of quality review. And within about 9 months, I became certified through the Canadian Police College as a forensic polygraph examiner. Now, what happens once you're trained as an examiner? It's incumbent upon the person to take refresher courses, and I belong to several professional polygraph associations: the American Polygraph Association, the Canadian Association of Police Polygraphists, and the American Police Polygraph Association.
Well, good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain just to our audience a little bit how I've used polygraph experts in my career to help our audience out there to maybe assimilate how valuable what you do is in this industry. Now, I just finished a case very recently, for example, where I have a client. He's a corporate client. He runs a company, and he has had to let a woman who he works with in his office go because of downsizing, and he has had to bonus her out and basically benefit her out, pay out a package, and terminate her. Now, on her way out, what she did is she didn't like the package that she got. She made that very, very clear on the way out. And what happened on the way out is she alleged sexual harassment in the workplace, and that there was all these allegations going on against my client with respect to the way he treated her in the workplace. Now, my client, this situation basically says these allegations are false and that this is just a ploy to get more money out of him. Now, like everything in this business, this could be true or it could not be true. This is a very, very sensitive issue. But, my client maintains it's not, it's something that doesn't happen, that she's done this before with respect to previous employers. She's just out for money. Now, what I did in this situation was I went out and I did litigation searches, civil court searches, where she has resided for the past 20 years and where she has worked for the past 20 years. And through those litigation searches, I managed to find 2 civil claims out there that she started where she did the exact same thing to previous employers. Still doesn't mean it didn't happen, but what I try to do in this investigation is show previous acts and facts. Now, one of the situations, what I might do in this particular thing is I might suggest to my client that they take a polygraph test. And everything I've ever seen with respect to the work I've done where I've used polygraph examiners, polygraph examination primarily has always kind of corroborated a whole bunch of evidence that's already in the court. It's part and parcel of everything else. Now, in this particular situation, I might suggest that, we have a polygraph examination done and that we try and get this into court. Now, this could be a very sensitive thing. It could go into a criminal court. It could go into a civil court. it could go into some form of an arbitration or a mediation with respect to something with respect to the the labor board, that kind of stuff. So this is kind of the area why I've thought it might be interesting to bring my guest in, and the way I've used polygraphs. Now, Frank, in your private sector, you're working in private practice now. Who is it that's hiring you? Can you walk us through who you're working for now? Less names, dates, and places if you like, but can you tell us who's hiring you now?
Sure. I have clients who are within law firms, lawyers who have hired me. I have private investigation firms that I work for. I also am under contract with the RCM Police to administer their pre-employment polygraph program to the new applicants who are applying to the RCMP.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you're saying that the recruits that come in that want to be police officers in the RCMP are undergoing a polygraph as part of their application process?
Part of their application process right across the country. As of last November,
yes,
every applicant now is required to undergo a polygraph examination as part of that application process.
And what kind of, if I can ask, can you tell us what kind of questions? Are there generic questions?
Yeah, without getting into specifics, what the RCMP are looking for are individuals who have a high degree of integrity, loyalty, and can be trusted. So the examination is centered around integrity issues.
Okay, now, how reliable is this stuff? I mean, let's say, for example, a guy fails a polygraph test. Like, how reliable is, is it a given that if you say the guy's a fail, that he's a fail, or could maybe just be having a bad day, maybe he's on medication, or just maybe he's one of those people that gets nervous easier, doesn't like public speaking? Like, how reliable is what you're doing?
Well, that's a good question. It's a question that's often asked of me, is how reliable is the examination? And a lot of things are taken into account prior to even administering a polygraph examination, everything from the environment that the examination is conducted in to the individual, whether or not they are suitable on that particular day because of physiological abnormalities or problems, psychological or mental health issues. So we look at their suitability. And so if I deem a person to be suitable, if the environment is a proper environment to administer the examination, and if it's the proper issue, I'm very confident that when I say the person is telling the truth, that I'm about 95% accurate that the person is being truthful or otherwise.
Now, what about if he's on like medication? Is there any medication that could set this stuff off? Like that increases your heart rate or brings your heart rate down?
It's another good question. There is no known medication, Kevin, that will turn a truthful person into a liar or vice versa. What it will do, if a person is heavily medicated, it will basically mean that their test would be deemed inconclusive. And if I find or if I deem a person to be on medication, I simply just won't test them.
Okay, but in my career, I don't do a lot of criminal defense work, all right? And I have a lot of people in my association, other PIs that I know that do a lot of defense work working for the defense. And so now that you're in private practice, I guess your police career, you were primarily working for the police, trying to, so to speak, put bad guys in jail. And now in private practice, I guess there are those situations where you're working for the defense. Is that a hard move to make when you come into private sector, that a defense lawyer could be asking you to examine his client, and let's say, for example, that client's charged with murder or sex assault, rape, or something like that? I don't know if you've ever done those kind of things, but is that hard for you coming out of a situation where you put bad guys in jail, so to speak, and now you're being called on what could be a defense trial and be called on behalf of the defense? I mean, that's got to be a heavy thing, no?
Yeah, and Kevin, it's sometimes you do wrestle with those moral issues, if you want to call them moral issues. But as a police officer, many times I would polygraph a person accused of or suspected of a murder or an act of terrorism, and I would verify that they are in fact truthful, that they weren't implicated or involved in it. And it comes over to the private sector also. My job as a polygraph examiner is to determine where the truth lies, and quite often, more often than not, people are telling the truth than actually practicing deception or lying. So I get a great sense of satisfaction in administering a test to truthful people and going back and saying to your counsel, this person is actually telling the truth.
What about if they're lying and it's not information that's favorable to the client? Let's say, for example, you test a guy, he's a defense lawyer, and you say to you, look, I got to tell you, your client failed this test twice. You know, I think he's lying. Like, how does that go over?
Well, that goes under, when I'm working for a lawyer, I'm under that lawyer-client confidentiality or privilege.
Sure.
And so I release the results to the lawyer however they seem fit. That's what they do with it. I'm under no obligation, and I can't, in fact, go to the law enforcement to report
I understand that, absolutely. Now, let's just talk about getting this stuff into court. So you've got this examination.